Welcome to our very first African Storytellers Unite panel discussion. I am Femi Odugbemi, your host for today. It is an absolute privilege and pleasure for me to spend today in conversation about Africa's film and TV industry and the talent that drives it. Fresh from our incredible Africa Month celebrations, leaders from across MultiChoice Group have come together today to share their thoughts and insights on how, with MultiChoice at the forefront, film and television creatives from across our continent are owning and taking the African stories to the world. As you know, this is a topic that I am passionate about, so I'm delighted to introduce you to our very distinguished panel, who will take you on a trip around the continent to show you how MultiChoice enables Africa to share her stories with the world. With me today is the channel director, Africa Magic Channels, Wangi Mba-Uzoukwu. Welcome, Wangi.
Thank you, Femi.
And I'm really happy as well to welcome the channel director, Eastern Southern Channels of MultiChoice, Mr. Timothy Okwaro. Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you, Femi.
As well, it's such a pleasure to be able to introduce as well the head of content, Showmax, Candice Fangueiro. Welcome, Candice.
So much, Femi. Great to be here.
My pleasure as well to introduce the head of content of Honey TV, which is owned by Media24. Honey TV is one of the latest African channels to be brought into the MultiChoice platforms. Honey is first original Pan-African lifestyle channel for curious and connected Africans. The channel includes bold and non-scripted shows by African producers, presenters, and participants. It's a channel for the young, for the vibrant, for the now digital natives, headed by Zinzi Velelo. Welcome, Zinzi.
Thank you so much, Femi.
Across the border from me is something really amazing happening. A new channel called the Appah channel is making a lot of waves, and the channel head, MultiChoice Ghana, is also here with us, Kennedy Dankel Appah. Welcome, Kennedy.
Thank you, Femi.
So let's get started. My first question is to you, Timothy. How is storytelling and sharing our stories, embracing our stories and our representations and experiences, how is it important to our continent, our nations, and our people?
Thank you. Good question, Femi. And I've thought about this many times before, right? And for me, it's extremely important to be able to tell our stories, because that's the narrative that we give to the universe that's out there that doesn't know much about Africa, right? Femi, if I take us back to when I was growing up, perhaps, and we were watching all these movies about the war in Vietnam. As far as I was concerned, America beat Vietnam in that war just because of the films that came after that and gave me that narrative. But in later years, I find that not necessarily true. It was, if not a balanced battle, Vietnam held pretty well on their own, right? That's what this global Hollywood has been able to do. That they've been able to give us a perception of what they want us to believe of that market. And by and large, through their films and through their storytelling, that's what we think America or Britain through BBC is all about. And so for our storytelling, then we have the opportunity to give the right and proper narrative of Africa, or the narrative that we want the world to believe about Africa. And increasingly, I think we've been doing it very well. When I look at simple things like, for example, is one of our shows, our Tanzanian shows on one of my channels, won an award out of Zambia, right? It wasn't normal that you'll find stories crossing over, but appreciation has gotten to a level where people in Zambia are recognizing a Tanzanian Swahili show. And that shows we're breaking these walls and our stories are going out there. And it's important that we tell these stories. And in this new dispensation, as you call it, or in this new way of life where social media is everything and user-generated content is out there, we, the people who are working on linear or on VOD, need to also make sure that we keep telling better stories, so that, from a linear or a VOD perspective, people are seeing the narrative. Because, when you go to the social media, what you'll see there might not be a true reflection of what we want people to perceive, but that's an individual's way of showing things, right? So for me, that's why it's important for us to be able to tell our stories, tell our narratives, let people know us for who we want them to think about us, for who we want them to know that we are. And that way the whole, our stories are shared the best way possible.
Wangi, you're working, you've had the Big Brother Nigeria show trending virtually every day across the continent, across the world, from this collaboration of storytelling where it's both curated and at the same time user-generated. How is that also helping all of us to embrace this African experience?
A lot of us in Africa are storytellers, and we create content, and that's what we do, and there's a passion for it. And we do tell stories that are African stories, and I think there's a difference between stories from Africa and African stories. The more we can tell our stories, and I think this is where I'm adding to what Tim had said, the more we can tell our stories, yes, it does allow us to tell what the reality is of who we are, our culture, our heritage, and our dreams and language and all that tradition. So we can let people see exactly who we are. But what it does in a continent like Africa, where there are not many avenues for economic empowerment, for growth, then our content that we create as Africans then become the soft power. Because when we show exactly who we are, the reality of what was once perceived to be something else, then we can attract tourism, we can attract investment. It's actually a very, very important tool that I don't know that we as a continent have embraced, that the importance of telling our stories is beyond engaging our content with the world. It's also beyond allowing us to see who we are, reflection of who we are. It's also possibly something that can actually help with the economic growth. And then leading into your question around what we do with a platform on a content like Big Brother, it's really about that. It's about giving African youths an opportunity to realize they can be more than what is available for them, and they can actually influence positively the youth in Africa. Again, that's a big population, that's a big segment. If we don't handle that or contain that or develop that properly, then we have a bigger problem as an African continent. So content isn't just something we have fun with and we engage, it's actually something that we can it's a tool. So we are all governments and presidents in our little area, and we must operate as such because we're actually moving the continent forward.
I'm going to quickly go to Candice to talk about Africans in the diaspora, because what you do at Showmax is one of those channels or platforms that are reconnecting Africans in the diaspora, reconnecting the world, giving access to this surge of African stories. How is that on Showmax expanding towards Africans who are also in the diaspora and the world at large?
I think that's one of my favorite parts about Showmax is the ability to not have, global barriers at all. And you can still have your piece of home when you're still not at home. You're living abroad, you started a new life, you're carrying on with, life as usual, but there's always that little bit of home that's missing. And I think all you need to do then is click on Showmax and you have an array of local content. The best content, the latest content, be it series, movies, all your local shows at the push of a button. So I think, it's that feel-good part that you can just reach in, and on the screen, there it is. You can get your Big Brother Nigeria. You can be a part of that conversation on the social sites. You can, be having the same conversation with your sister who's in South Africa, and, you don't feel like you're left behind. Or, when you're in Kenya and there's the latest crime and justice series that's out, you can both be, watching this gripping series and have that narrative and have the conversations that you would normally. There's no FOMO. You're not feeling left out at all. So it is a home away from home, which I think is wonderful. I think it is. It's a beautiful way to bring all of our beautiful stories to Africans around the world.
Thank you. I want to talk to Zinzi about the young people of Africa. The work that you're doing at the Honey Channel is a lifestyle channel. And someone just told me just today that, someone found out through the Honey Channel shows on weddings that weddings across African cultures are exactly the same. There is a way in which we're beginning to find that our experiences are actually shared, our cultures are shared. There is a way in which perhaps admiration or understanding of each other's similarities in culture and worldview is already something that the Honey Channel is achieving. Tell us what's going on at the Honey Channel.
Thank you, Femi. So Honey is a new lifestyle channel, Pan-African lifestyle channel. And so what we have a lot in our content is seeing how people across this beautiful continent, Africa, are living their lives, are eating, are celebrating, are loving, dating, weddings. And what we've found a lot, even in social media, is that people are starting to engage with the channel in sharing that they are finding out that people within the continent share so many similarities with each other than differences. Because in the past, people have been exposed to American lifestyle shows or other regions' lifestyle show and very limited to be exposed to neighboring countries' lifestyle. So South Africans see very little of Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya, if not for specific channels. So what the channel now has been able to do is encompass all those cultures, all those countries, all in one. And then it means the countries, then the continent is exposed to each other. So people are seeing how there's more similarities than differences amongst them.
Thank you. Kennedy, I know that you have a fairly unique story to tell now. New channels have been created now in Ethiopia. I believe there's also in Uganda. Working with them, how's that been for you?
Thank you, Femi. I think it's important to highlight that the impact of Okwaro Magic in the Ghana creative space have been huge. Most often when producers meet and then we discuss, I describe myself as a gatekeeper because I'm keeping the gates for the batch behind me, because for years, we've never had our own platform on our own MultiChoice platform. So to have Okwaro Magic, it means a lot. And I can go on and on. I'm not sure even this platform can accommodate the number of feedback, the positive feedback that we've received from producers. It's been immense. First of all, we've never seen in this space a channel showing our own stories, a daily telenovela, 5 days a week. It's never happened. For me, I take a lot of pride to lead this because consistently creatives can now plan their year. You can wake up and knowing that your year is planned out, you have this project coming on, you have a show on Okwaro Magic, and you can easily plan. What this means is creatives that found themselves in banking, that found themselves in other industries cannot come back home to what they love. And it cements our positioning when we say our tagline is welcome home.
That's interesting. I like your phrase, being the gatekeeper. I tend to think of all of you more like shepherds of stories, because in the end, there's a lot of storytellers, but there's just so many stories that can be funded. And I know a lot of those who are watching this are asking themselves, what's the magic portion? What's the mix? What are the stories that appeal to you? What are the ingredients of the stories that make the kind of impact, build the kind of audiences, create the kind of buzz that you're looking for?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question, because I think we've been talking generally about storytelling. And I think when Kennedy was speaking, that's one of the things he was actually honing in, which is to say that the stories that are hyper-local, that are actually speaking directly to the particular regions, that talk about your heritage speak your language, show your culture, your lifestyle. Yes, Africa is one big African continent, and to Zizi's point, there are a lot of similarities. Even in diversity, there's unity, right? So whereas we are one continent with similar things that we experience, we also have our unique cultures and lifestyles. So for example, on African Magic, one of the things that we introduced a few years ago is that what we call the epic telenovelas, which really are timepieces that take us back around before the colonial days, around the same time. We've seen that in addition to your regular telenovela that's adapted similar to what you have in Mexico and all that, that also works, the melodrama, but the epic now, even connects even further. So, which is why I speak directly to the hyper-local content being something that's really good. There are other genres too that work in this market, which is action. It's something that really works, and if we can actually do action in a way that is also locally relevant. And we have done telenovelas like Brethren, which kind of pushes that boundary, and we have a few coming up. But the most important thing is that the more hyper-local you go in the region of Africa that you operate, the chances of you connecting and engaging more are even higher.
Yeah, so I echo everything Wangi has said, right? And according to me, when you are producing a show, right? So scripted show, for example, or sitcom, two things you need to understand, right? So who's your target? Sometimes we've seen producers who want to maybe get off these very hyper-local sort of thinking and try and do something that will sort of pull in everybody from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. And could it work? Yes. But again, it needs a certain level of skill, right? For how you're writing it so that, because it has to be relevant to you in some way for you to enjoy it if you're doing it local. The story writing needs to be in a way that ensures that your viewer is hooked, intrigued. There's the story arcs, attract the viewer to come and watch the next episode. We find that in a lot of markets, it's still not there. We do tell our stories, yes, but when it comes to writing a long telenovela, 260 episodes of a show, at some point it sort of weakens. The story sort of goes a different direction. They start off really well, but sustenance, they can't sustain it, right? But we've seen other mature markets where they're able to do 500 episodes of a story and the story still remains strong. And every month or every new arc has a cliffhanger and everybody wants to come and watch the next episode, right? So I think it's a matter of maturity of the different markets. But in my experience, having worked in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania for so long, there's been a lot of, and Zambia as well, there's been a lot of immense improvement so far. The story writing is getting there. We're working closely with the producers and as well as the teams from SA to ensure that we're able to take it a notch higher every time, right? In terms of the picture quality and storylining, to make our stories, be able to resonate, right? And I'm stoked with the fact that a Tanzanian show won an award, a Zikomo award in Zambia, right? Which tells me that something is happening right there. And if we keep going at it, it'll only get better.
Interesting. You've got a different set of insights, Zinzi, don't you?
Our biggest thing that we consider when we look at our content is characters and casting. We want to make sure, because we believe that your content and the strength of your content and the strength of your episode lies on the people that you have on your show. We are non-scripted, so we cannot direct our people in specific ways. We are observing, observational reality. We are following their lives and how they are. So we make sure that we invest in making sure that we find the best characters to follow their lives. Then the next thing that we do is we always want to go to the depth of the content. We push on all levels. We push the emotion, we push the love, we push the passion. We want to make sure that when our viewers are watching the show, they can connect and they can relate. Often you will see that, lifestyle shows are considered to be maybe simpler to do, people could think, because you're merely following people's lives, or you're in a kitchen and you're doing a cooking, episode. But actually what you have is your episode is lying, or your show is lying on the hands of the person in front of your camera. Are they giving you life? Are they, charismatic? Are they memorable? When people at home are watching them, do they want to say, I cannot wait to come back to this show because people here are so entertaining? So we always want to say to our producers and the people who create content for us, it all starts with the finding the right people to put in front of our cameras. And then our content feeds into that, and everything else just comes alive. Our cameras, you can have the best cameras, the best team, but if you've got someone in front of you there that is just not bringing it to life for you, you've got a flat episode, and therefore your content is not living.
I'm gonna ask Candice to just answer the same question. I think your reality is also very different because of your audience being more, international and broad. What should someone trying to pitch a show to Showmax be thinking about?
I think when you come to Showmax, the reality is that you're working off a blank canvas. You can be a little bit more risque, a little bit more bold, a little bit more daring, do things that you don't necessarily script or draft for linear television. We're living in a space now where you can, kind of spread your creative wings and tell new and different stories. So I think with this blank canvas, you've got to explore different stories. And I think we are so story rich and culturally rich that there are so many stories that we can tell, but we have to find the ones that we think are going to resonate with our audiences, both locally and abroad. So I think, we venture and we are looking at developing a range of content across genres. So be it scripted, be it unscripted. We do get a little bit risque with some of our concepts, which is exciting, but also scary at the same time because it can go horribly wrong. But I think the aim is to get it right and to work with, local producers and cast and crew that are incredibly passionate and really want to tell fun, interesting, new and different stories. You've got the channels who've been creating content for years and, they really are masters of their crafts. And it's great to work with the likes of Wangi and Tim because they really do understand their markets and they bring great stories to Showmax. And the teams that are working on the content for Showmax know what what our audiences want. We want to tell new, different stories, and we just want to work with partners who want to challenge themselves, who want to, not necessarily create one-hit wonders, but create a franchise per se. When is the next season coming out? So we've now released The Real Housewives of Durban, which has done incredibly well in the reality space, and we're looking at creating season 2, And not only is that being viewed in South Africa, but it's also being viewed in the likes of Kenya and Nigeria, which is amazing. We challenge ourselves where we want to tell great stories in the most authentic way and really shine a light on the African culture that we have.
Can I add just something? One of the things that we do spend time on is the story. And personally, there's on my side, there's a personal investment in getting the right story. So even when we get pitches come in, I think this is for everyone listening out there, we do spend time looking at the story, tweaking the story, working with the writers, to get the story to where we want it to be, and it's all for the betterment of us as an African entity, because we're building that capability as we go along. We have a role to play as content developers in assisting and supporting to build that capacity. And when you see potential, you tend to say, okay, but if an Mnet, the Mnet or the MultiChoice way or the Showmax way, we know exactly how to create these stories, and we do support that.
I'd love to add to that, Femi. Wangi, yes. I can completely connect to that and I can relate to that. Honey has been on air only from the 15th of February. So we're very brand new, we're babies here. But what we've found is that there are beautiful ideas, there are beautiful shows and concepts, but what our producers across the continent is lacking is the experience at times. So what we also have found is that if we see the spark, if we see something, even if it is small, we give it the time to say, okay, what are you trying to accomplish and because a lot of the time, a lot of our shows that are on air and are performing well have been birthed out of people who haven't created lifestyle content, but we are seeing the growth and the development. It is our responsibility to say, we've got producers in Kenya, we've got producers in Zambia, in Nigeria, in South Africa. How do we hold their hand and make sure that together we develop this process? Because we can already see the difference in the first quarter of the year's content to the current content that's on air. So I absolutely understand what you're saying, is that as long as concepts come in, if it's not something at first, you don't just say, all right, cool, well, this is not up to scratch. We want to encourage, and this is specifically for people out there, I want to encourage them to say, if it's unique and it's a beautiful idea, it can definitely possibly see the light of day. Even if the technicalities are not always there, we develop and we work with our partners in the regions to make sure we get there together.
Wangi spoke about, the local strategy. Candice just mentioned the word authenticity. The African story, initially, Wangi talked about the difference between stories from Africa and the African story. Is it contemporary stories only? Is it adapted stories? Are these stories that I've got to come up with? Or can I get stories from literature? Because Africa has a very rich literary background. Can I get stories from folklores? Kennedy, you've just been through that process. Address that for me.
Yeah, so Femi, you've actually asked what I was going to address. I will begin by asking the question, what is our story as Africans? What is really our story? I think our story, pre-colonial, post-colonial, and now are different, but there are certain common nuances that run through all of them, which is we are passionate, we are driven as Africans, and we want to see our own. So in order to get the right story, the right fit for the right audience, we just need to find the right balance. And producers need to understand, and especially writers, the story can be good, but the structure, it needs to have certain key elements, which pay TV or any other platform will drive. And it's important that we get this, that our story can be unique, and it is unique, but the structure to put it into a film or a television program is totally different. We need to also help in developing, and as my colleague from Honey said, look, you can identify content that is very good, and you realize that there is a deficiency with the producer. You just need to walk the journey with them. But at the end of the day, what is our story? And I believe our story is that we are passionate, driven, and strong people. And it runs through all the eras, post-colonial, pre-colonial, and even now.
How do we project our worldview? How do we come to a place where identity is not just about the clothes and the dance and the drums? What is it that you are looking for in those stories beyond, the drama, all of that? What is an African story?
There has to be some authenticity in it. I mean, if you're going for a Game of Thrones version for Africa, obviously, then you're looking for something different. And that's why I keep saying, for us, for myself, for Wangi, for Kennedy, for Candice, for Zinzi, the number one thing we have to understand, and that we do understand sitting in these positions, is that we know our target audience. And so whenever you walk in with the pitch, our heads will first go to, who are we targeting? Mm-hmm. Right? So am I looking for a story from my premium audience? Am I looking for a story to go onto Showmax? Is it an access, an epic story? We first need to establish that before then we can proceed. Because perhaps a story that would still sit very well on your premium, for your premium audience, might not be what the mass market wants. And then you as a producer coming in and you're asking them, why are they saying no to this story? But the need was specific for this demographic or this target audience, right? Because in storytelling, you can tell a whole breadth of stories. Like I said, you can do an African Game of Thrones, an African Wakanda story. Perfect, you can do that. Or like Wangi said, action films. So in Kenya, it's something that we'd like to consider, I think, because I've never thought about doing a proper Kenyan action film, and I don't know how that would look like. But the proposal has not landed on my desk, and maybe there's an opportunity for us in the Kenya office to go out and task people to do that for us. But stories can be told in diverse ways, but the structure and the storytelling is what attracts us to it. We all agree here that maybe it's not the perfect pitch that has come, but we see the potential in how you've brought the story, in how you've broken it down, then we can work with this and make it 13 episodes of a great drama.
They're always asking what's new. And I'm asking that question on their behalf. For each of you, what's the new thing coming out? What can we look forward to?
An African story is really stories that are created for us and by us initially, but it can be relevant or engaging to the rest of the world. Now, with having said that, it then means that it's our history, our heritage, which is where the epics and the timepieces come in. And I think it's about diversifying the genres that we have. So a lot of, we're known really pretty much now for those telenovelas that have now been established, which we started about 5 years ago. We do drama really well. We've got the tinsels. We do sitcom really well, and we continue to do bigger and better with those. But we push the boundaries around reality. To have a general entertainment channel, you must, cross the genres, variety, sitcom, your dramas, your lifestyle, your short drama, your long drama, your films. And there is a lot of content out there to, obviously acquire. So for those out there who are looking, in these genres, we do welcome, to look at this content and to see it's better. Obviously, if we get it, in the beginning of development, so we can work with you to make sure that it's up to scratch, obviously for the platform.
I'm going to take it to Candice because you mentioned licensing. Talk to me about what the licensing process is like and what options do content producers have.
Absolutely. So I just want to digress slightly. I think in terms of what's new is coming out, I think Showmax isn't a very exciting space right now. We've got a number of productions on the slate, which will be revealed in time. I think, one of the epic fantasies, which are going to be released this year, is going to be a phenomenal production called Blood Psalms, which is rooted in African mythology. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the budget. I think we all want big things and we all want amazing shows, but, we do have to look at what the budget is. So for Blood Psalms, we have to get partners on board. And I think African audiences, the continent over, are in for something pretty exciting. And I think also, when we talk about African stories, yes, there's that is rooted in African mythology or in our heritage. But then, like what Wangi said, it's about the people of today. So I'll give you another example, a very popular format like Temptation Island. That is also, it's an international format, but we're bringing it to South Africa, where we want to see South Africans in this space, in this reality space. I think if you'll also see some of the reviews on the productions that have been released, there's critical acclaim that's coming through. A lot of the words that I'm seeing in the media is, we've never seen anything like this. And the minute I see something like that, we've never seen, I get excited because, we're doing something right. Guys who've been reviewing content for years are standing up and they're going, oh, Showmax, look what you're doing. And that's where we want to be. We want to be the guys that are creating something new, something different. There are characters that already exist, but there's also a whole new world that we're going to create. So there'll be spaces that are uncharted yet, but we will tackle them in time to come. So I think it's a combination of having the right story with the right team and the right budget. So on the licensing front, I think this is the easier part for us, where, shows that have performed particularly well at the box office, we can see the ratings and, is this something that we know would work for our customers? We would then license that. And I think with COVID, things have changed and, there aren't that many productions that went into theatre. And we've had to kind of relook the windowing and, if it doesn't find a home in cinema, can it find a home on our platforms? PVOD was introduced on box office where, a first premiere happened on box office and then came to Showmax shortly thereafter, and we would license it that route. So I think, things have kind of changed in the windowing landscape with COVID at this point in time in the movie space. With the local movies that have been out there, we've been able to license them for our platforms and then, utilize them across box office, our channels, and Showmax. So there is an opportunity, and I think in the licensing space, we've got teams that are reviewing content on a weekly basis. And, you know, if it falls within our strategy and we do see that it would be something that resonates with our various target audiences, it's absolutely something we would look at licensing.
I want to move now to talking about how do we train these emerging young talents, both in front and behind the camera?
Just like Kennedy alluded to earlier, and we've been doing this for the last 2 or 3 years, there is a deliberate drive to grow new talent, because if you don't do that, then you find yourself in a situation where every show looks the same because the key cast is the same, right? So we deliberately try and mix the old with the experienced actors with the new actors and actresses, and try to push the new ones to sort of like the forefront, right? So an example is one of our top shows in Kenya over the last 3 years has been Selena. And the key character who plays Selena was not a known face before, but she came in for the auditions. She was very passionate. She outdid a lot of the people who've been there acting for 10 plus years or longer than she did. And so I tell the young person to not give up, right? So with us pushing out a lot more content, it means there's a lot more opportunity. The young people need to realize that, you know, the guys who've come before them and working with people like Mnet and MultiChoice and Showmax, a lot of avenues have been opened. And if you're persistent at it, you will get your opportunity. Just show up and show out. The opportunities are there. We are continuing to look for new faces to make stars of. We want our on-air stars, our TV stars to also be able to cross over to become some of our biggest exports. We need to work together. There is not one person has the knowledge of how to do everything, but as long as they work together, they're willing to learn and they put in the time, the opportunities for them are immense and continuously growing.
Also through what you're doing at the Talent Factory, and also through striking key partnerships with key stakeholders. So for instance, in Ghana, when we started, the National Film Authority approached us and they wanted to do a pitch series for producers to come pitch their stories. And it's come up. Now we are at the tail end of it, of which we are part. And what this has done is to unearth a new breed of storytellers. Some of the projects are amazing, which are being looked at. But these are the ways you can always keep fresh talent in, is by having key partnerships, such as the Talent Factory and then the P-Series from the National Film Authority in Ghana.
I wanted, first of all, ask you guys, because you know, Timothy, Wangi, Candice, you guys have been pivotal to the work of the Talent Factory. How do you assess the progress of interventions like, you know, the Talent Factory?
I think when you say what we look for and developing the young talent, for us, it's about potential. So we're not looking for the finished product. We're looking for potential because we know that there's a dearth of, you know, sort of the experience in the market and it needs to be built. And if you look at the work we've done on Africa Magic per se, there's a lot of potential that we've identified and we've given them projects and given them the opportunity. Then they are now credible producers, scriptwriters and directors, you know, in their own right, with their own companies and doing great work. And that's really what the foundation of Africa Magic was. If you look at Tinsel, a lot of the talent that goes through Tinsel, you come on Tinsel, we've given you that first opportunity because we saw the potential. You stay with the team, you're on set, you're grinding, directors are guiding you, you become really good, and then you become a Nollywood star. We see you on big screen, we see you on cinema, and you're an actor in your own right. And then we also grow such categories as short films and things like that because we do realize that resources are an issue. So for the young talent that are coming up, they may not have resources to produce a full movie. But again, like I said, we're not looking for a finished product, we're looking for potential. And we have found that potential and we have groomed them to become fully fledged producers today. There's quite a few of them. A lot of the producers on Africa Magic today, some of the content that's rating really high was really because we saw potential and then we worked with them to get them to where they are. We do go back to veterans who may not be working fully in the industry and cast them in key roles. And you'll see that on our content, because that again brings excitement, nostalgia, and also gives the hope for the young ones that it's a career and a lifetime. It's not something that you just do and then you end up doing something else. It's something you can build now as a career that can be rewarding and can be lucrative.
Candice, I want to talk about Colors of Africa, the short film series that you just aired. How did that go?
So we've published, a number of the short films, and the beauty about digital is we can see the exact figures, the exact number of views, how many people clicked on, the short film, how, what percentage of them completed the entire short film. So it's still very early days. We normally, give content at least 90 days, just to get a good indication. But I am really happy, that we've managed to publish them on the platform and give them a home. And I think, the devil is in the data and in the detail. When we do see standout short films, that have come through from the MultiChoice Talent Factory, we can zone in on that and go, okay, what about the short film worked? Why did it resonate with the audience? What did they love about it? Because it can be an experimental space, as I've mentioned before. If anything, I would just like to encourage them to keep doing their thing. By default, you've got a generation that are growing up on smartphones and tablets, and that is the way they consume content. So for these youngsters, I would encourage them to tell their stories, because they're living the world a very different way to what we are and how we have, over the last couple of years. So they have their stories to tell. I think if young writers can bring that to the page and we can then bring that to the screen, I think is a great opportunity for us to really explore a younger world, that young adults and the youth, and use Showmax as a platform to tell those stories.
Thank you. Tim, shall we talk about these young talent factory producers and the kind of work that they're doing and what the future holds?
Yeah, so I think a lot of very good films have come out of the talent factory. The young guys got an opportunity and they've run with it, which is amazing. We're launching an East Africa movie channel. I'm working to launch that in July, and that's going to be one channel that will only have movies. And we already gave, an opportunity to some of the MTF alumni who pitched sub-shows, and we were happy with them, and we're going to pick those, right? But, budgets being a scarce resource, then you cannot cater to everybody. And so I keep telling the others who are not part of the lot that we've picked that, you have to keep trying, you have to keep knocking on the door. One rejection doesn't mean that you should dump all this and move on to something else. It should just be a step back and think about what you can do better and come back with that. But I'm also amazed at the fact that they've picked up the training that they've had, through the 12 months they're in the academy. And it's great to see, even when they come for pitches, they really know how to put the elevator pitch. They know how to show you what the work is, because I remember initial pitches in the academy before they select whatever films they're going to shoot. It was a bit difficult for some of them. You know what I mean? They get intimidated and they don't know how to, articulate themselves. But when they came back for the pitches for the films, we saw a different, more mature bunch of people. So I think the Talent Factory is doing a lot of great work. I think collectively there's more we could do within the resources that we have to just make sure that the young people get more opportunities to put, their work on air. And we're totally 100% behind supporting that, 100%.
Just following up on that, Zinzi, speak to the young people who simply pick up a camera or learn filmmaking online, but don't understand that those cameras and those lights are just tools. There is a science to storytelling. There is a need for training. There is need for capacity building, both on a communal level and an individual level, because the Talent Factory can only take on 60 students every cycle, but there are tens of thousands, who can't get in, but who want a career in storytelling? What should those people prioritize?
There's someone listening right now and their last hope is they really want to know, if I can't get into this and I don't have money for this, what then do I do? And a lot of the time I want to encourage people to think of their ideas. Like we said in the beginning of this conversation, is that ideas sometimes can, if an idea is strong and it's spark and it's unique and authentic, help can come. So I'll make an example. If you are a young aspiring filmmaker, you've got no official training, you've got no funds for official training, you've got no way of getting into the MTF right now or anything, and you really are passionate about this, start off by sharing your idea. There's portals where these ideas come in, and I can guarantee you, especially with Honey, these portals get reviewed and ideas get reviewed. So start off by sharing your idea. What is it that you want to do with this career? You want to become a director, you want to run a show, you have a concept, you have a proposal. Share those proposals with us. We have recently just gotten into conversations with young people, especially MTF now. As I was in Nigeria, literally now I am in conversations with the MTF people as well to see how they can join our channel, you see what they can offer us. How can we work together? So to someone who's sitting there and saying, I really want a career in this, I want an opportunity to get in, I want to encourage them by starting off to start that conversation. Who is it that you can send your idea to, your pitch to? People usually get intimidated by our job titles and they think they can't find or reach us. Yes, there's a protocol of how these things happen, but start that conversation, send that email to that portal, send your concept, follow up on it. A lot of people in this industry do not have formal training. Some people have got a passion and a talent, and they've grown that and have become very important, prominent filmmakers in our industry.
Thank you. I want to move into this space talking about, the state of African cinema. I want to talk about that from the perspective of the African Cinema Pop-Up Channel. Kennedy, how often do you think we need this sort of pop-up channel, this sort of opportunities to showcase where we are now?
Sure. It's Femi, the cinema space, I'm sure, has been one of the most heavily impacted by COVID. Over the past 12 months or over, most cinemas have been closed. Same here in Ghana. So the idea to have a pop-up channel dedicated for African movies was received well. And I think it's something we should replicate, not even only for Africa Month, but periodically, so that it will continuously place African movies at the doorsteps of Africans. Then we can see our stories. Because, as you did say, most of the movies that were shown there were award-winning movies, award-winning stories, and they were great. And it also enhances and gives hope to the young ones watching that, look, there is a platform who continuously highlights African stories, and it continuously cements our position as Africa's best storyteller.
Is there a way that, we need to think differently, or our storytellers need to think differently, because the space in terms of how they create actually needs to acknowledge, this reality that people are watching more and more on very small screens?
We always tell, anyone that comes in for a pitch, tell the story the best way you can and the way you need to tell it. Often, people will ask, is there a duration? Is there a certain style? What do we need to consider? And, there's all of these things that play a role, but what we want to fundamentally get across is tell the story in the best way you want to tell it and can tell it. And if that means it's 15-minute episodes, by all means, go right ahead and tell your story in 15-minute episodes. As long as it keeps your audience engaged and wanting more, that's key for us. At this point in time, the majority of, content gets viewed on mobile phones. People are commuting. They don't necessarily have an hour to commit to viewing, be it in the taxi or wherever it is. So duration to some extent plays a role. And if, like I say, you can tell your story in 30 minutes, go ahead and tell it in 30 minutes. we've debated this at length to go, well, people would rather watch shorter episodes because of data consumption and, how much data you end up using. But, we also find that people end up watching their soapies on mobile every single day because the show is that great that they keep coming back for more. So I think, yes, data is a limitation, but if it's a great show, that's going to win at the end of the day. The beauty of Showmax is that you don't have a time slot to fill, and I think, it's not as rigid. But again, it doesn't mean, we're going to be creating 5-minute episodes or whatever it is. In the Showmax space, the ability to hook a customer in episode 1 and 2 is fundamental. So for the guys, if you don't hook them in those first 2 episodes, you've lost them. You need to hook me because I'm going to click on that poster and, click on the title. And if you haven't won me over within first 2 episodes, I'm probably not coming back because you've got to give me a reason to dedicate my data and my time to watching the content. So I think that's where we challenge our producers and, partners. The importance of hooking customers at the beginning and then holding them right to the very end of the series.
And I want to wrap this up by giving each one of you just a minute to address as a closing, what you see as the most important thing for African storytelling in the immediate future.
For African storytelling to thrive and continue to grow, I tell our storytellers to be brave about the stories they tell, right? So do not be apologetic about what you want to say, but keep it authentic, right? And just make sure that you're doing it from the heart. Because again, at the end of the day, if you don't believe in what you're doing yourself, then nobody out there is going to believe in what you're trying to tell them. And work together with the content teams. Kennedy called us the gatekeepers. Sometimes you find that when you give feedback to a producer, they don't take it as you trying to help in getting the best out of the show, but it's you interfering with their creativity, which is not the case, right? I think Wangi said it here and Zinzi said it as well. We know our customers. We're trying to work together to create the best thing for our customers. And if it's that great, your name as a producer is also on there, so it's a win-win.
Thank you. Zinzi?
I would say that there is no better time to be an African creative right now. We're literally at the base point of being filmmakers and in this world. The world is watching us. So like Timothy said, be authentic. I know it's something that we hear a lot, it's repeated, but it is so important. The world can get everything else out there. We have this authenticity. We have the African story. We have the African narrative. We are here. We can tell it. So I want to encourage everyone to always be as authentic as possible, to always reach as local as possible, and to always try to make sure that they are bringing a uniqueness with all the content that they want to create. And right now is the best time to be creating this content in this beautiful continent.
Kennedy, I'll let you go first and let Wangi wrap this thing up.
Thank you, Femi, again. I think from where I look at it, the most important thing is to find the right balance. The right balance between authenticity, storytelling, business, and the whole creative landscape. We've been influenced by the environment we find ourselves in, by what we've consumed over the years, on the internet, on linear TV. When we bring it into our perspective, we need to find a balance between that and what is authentically African. We give them the opportunity, they should take it, find the right balance, and keep pushing. Never give up, because you might never know when the next best story is going to come from.
Thank you, Wangi.
We need to be thinking as storytellers, what are we trying to say? What do we want to be taken away from this story? What is the lesson here? What is the learning here? And I think it links back to talking about our heritage, talking about the books that written, whatever it is, but when we're creating those stories, yes, they must be authentic, but we need to also have an idea, what are we trying to impart? What do we want the person who watches or reads this story or sees this story to think, to feel? I think it's important that we think about the positive stories that we want to tell, because we're talking about changing a narrative and Africans telling their story for themselves. But linked to that authenticity is something very fundamental that we don't really do well. And I think if we can't get that right, then authenticity is thrown out the window, which is we need to do the research around these stories to be able to bring the authenticity to bear.
I want to thank all of you that have joined us, but especially a big thank you to our panelists. Candice, thank you very much. Kennedy, it's been such a pleasure. I'm grateful, Wangi, for all your deep insights. Zinzi, I can't wait to start watching more the Honey TV and the excitement all around. And Timothy, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the new Movies Only channel in East Africa. And on behalf of all of you and Africa's most loved storytellers, MultiChoice, it's been quite a time and quite an enriching experience with the panel. And it's looking like we have quite a few questions from our audiences now. We're going to just pause and take some of that right away. This has been quite a great discussion. I can only hope that our audience have a deeper understanding of our content focus and what they can look forward to. I also wish we had more time. We have quite a few questions from our audience and very little time left. We will try to address as many questions as we possibly can in the time remaining, but if we're not able to address your question, we will get back to you post the event. So let's get quickly to the question. I've tried to write them down. This first one is for you, Timothy, from Joyce Makwenda. And Joyce says, how does one get hold of the gatekeepers to pitch content for Southern Africa? Is there a specific portal to submit to or a team to contact?
Okay, good question. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you so much, Femi. Yes, we have the Zambezi Magic submissions portal. So if you go to the Mnet website and go under Zambezi Magic, you will find the submissions portal. And we actively go through the portal very regularly to look at the submissions that have come in. And if what you've put up there interests the team, they will contact you and you can proceed the discussions on your specific pitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. I'm going to just give the second question to both Zinzi and Kennedy to tackle. This is from David. And David says, can you please comment on the state of homegrown children's content? What's the appetite for such leaning towards animations or the type of content? I'll let Zinzi take that first, and then Kennedy, perhaps you take that, especially given your Kwaba channel content development work.
Thank you, Femi. Quite a tricky question. Animation is not something we're looking at this stage for Honey. And as a growing channel, as I mentioned, we are slowly but surely finding what does sit beautifully with our viewers and what they do enjoy. Kids entertainment is in the pipeline, just not immediately. So that's what I have to say on that. Kennedy?
Hi, Zinzi. Thank you, Femi. I think this is a very complex but very important question because as our strategy and platform, we satisfy the whole family. We are a general family entertainment channel, so children's content is welcome. We've actually looked at some few things that are coming up, which we will share in the future. But with regards to animation, it's just another form of storytelling. A good story can be animated or be shot in real time. So it doesn't really matter. We are open to all forms so far as it serves us, our purpose, and it tells our stories better.
The third comment I'm pulling out of the pool right now is a general comment from Nwabisa. And Nwabisa says, I agree with Kennedy, a concept like the African Movies pop-up channel should be the norm and not reserved only for Africa Month. We've almost run out of time, so we'll just end with that comment. Like I said previously, if any of your questions have not been answered, be confident that a response will come to you post this event. I want to thank all of you that have joined us, but especially a big thank you once again to our distinguished panelists, Candice, Kennedy, Wangi, Zinzi, and Timothy. Thank you all so much for your insights and your enthusiasm for this golden era of storytelling in Africa. And on behalf of all of you, and Africa's most loved storyteller, MultiChoice, it's been quite a time and quite an enriching experience. Thank you, everyone, and keep safe.
Thank you.